You're listening to Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Join us as we explore how medical professionals can achieve stellar success in all areas of life. It's time to level up.
Hello, everybody. We're at Stellar Success Podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Tudor Francu. I have the pleasure and honor to have here with me a good friend and an accomplished physician, Dr. Nwodim. How are you, Dr. Nwodim?
I'm good. How are you doing, Tudor?
Excellent, excellent. I just want to kind of have a chance to give you a chance to introduce yourself and tell us in a couple of minutes, how do you start? How did you start in medicine? How was your journey and where are you now?
Yeah, so as Tudor mentioned, my name is Emeka Nwodim. I'm currently orthopedic surgeon specializing in spine surgery. In terms of, I practice in Maryland, mostly in the Anne Arundel County area, a little bit of Queen Anne's County. My practice has 3 offices. I operate out of 2 hospitals, currently 1 surgery center and pending another surgery center. In terms of my background and how I ended up in medicine, my mother is a physician. She's a family physician, but it wasn't, I would say my story is probably not the traditional in the sense that my mom didn't graduate medical school till after I finished high school. So she was about 38 years old when she graduated medical
Oh, wow.
school.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and she had a journey that it's interesting because now that I'm thinking about it, I'm thinking maybe this podcast should be about her, not me. But
Sure.
my mom and our family emigrated from Nigeria. We left Nigeria when I was a baby, and at that time moved to the UK where she had went to undergrad at the University of London. And she essentially was on a pathway to be a teacher and had a degree in education until she moved to the United States. And when she got to the US, the job market just demanded healthcare. So she ultimately ended up in nursing. And then after finishing nursing school, transitioned to medical school. And that's how she didn't graduate medical school until she was 38. So I was exposed to healthcare fairly early, but I say not in the traditional senses, and we weren't born into that. So that opened my eyes to medicine, and I saw both the good and the bad side of medicine, in the sense of a lot of medical training, a lot of studying, a lot of hard work, but not always the amount of financial freedom and revenue that you would expect after putting in that many years of work.
Yeah.
So I saw that firsthand in my mom. She worked very hard. She was a single mother. I have 3 siblings, so there were 4 of us. So if you can imagine, she went through nursing school, and she worked as a nurse while she was in medical school and in residency.
Wow.
With 4 children. And yeah, we had help from uncles, aunts, and so forth. So not only were we lived in a number of different areas, as I said, Nigeria, where I was born, London for some years, then the US. And in the US, we moved pretty much each time that she transitioned to a new stage of her career. I'm sorry, saying goodnight to my baby girl. Fortunately, I have a good father-in-law.
That's cute.
Yeah, so we moved each time that she transitioned. So ultimately, by the time I finished elementary school, I had lived in about 5 or 6 states in 3 countries, in multiple cities within those states. And Maryland was always pretty much home. We transitioned throughout the Baltimore area, but went as extreme as West Virginia, where she went to medical school, to New Jersey and Philadelphia, where I went to medical school. So that was my exposure to medicine. And
Interesting.
How I ended up in it was essentially looking at what my skills were, which were very minimal. My skills were, I was a very disciplined, structured person. And as I got older and I started to narrow down my options to give me both a stable career, so stability, longevity. Those were my priorities, and some element of financial freedom. I ultimately was drawn more and more to medicine. And I don't mean that in a callous way, because I know that's probably not your traditional response for why physicians become physicians. Yes, I still had a heart and a mindset to help people. But I know there are many ways that you can help people that doesn't just come down to medicine.
Yeah.
So mixing all of those things and being pretty strong in basic sciences, primarily math, as I transitioned through high school and then into college and narrowed down my choices for what career I was going to go into, I was drawn more and more to medicine. And I went into it though with the caveat, knowing that if I was going to go to medicine, I had to choose a specialty that was worth the work. And that's how I chose surgery and orthopedic surgery.
Awesome. That's a great journey. Amazing journey you had. And, where you are right now, obviously an accomplished physician and surgeon and very well known in the community also. I always start the podcast asking my guests the obvious question, right? We're on Stellar Success Podcast. What does success means to you? And, you know, how do you define that for yourself?
Absolutely. So success has it's interpreted in different ways by different individuals. On one hand, you have material things that you may use to define success. That's what we traditionally think of financial success, financial freedom. I think most human beings want some element of that, especially coming from a household where we were very limited financially and resources. And then I also seeing someone that you love and care about. For me, it was my mom, worked so hard to bring home so little, and to be confined and restrained in a sense in terms of her financial freedom. It was work, children, make just enough to pay bills. Even after she made a physician, it was still a struggle. At that stage, like I said, she graduated med school when I was graduating high school. So I was going off to college, and she was having college bills. I have two older siblings that had just finished college and a younger sibling who was in high school at the time. Her finances were spread thin, even as a physician, and especially in a specialty that is not very financially rewarding at that time. And so I going back to the question is how I define success. That's the material side of success in terms of having enough resources to live comfortably. And I don't necessarily believe in an exuberant lifestyle or a lavish lifestyle or a selfish lifestyle. But with that being said, in order to maintain some level of health and freedom in this world, you need a financial platform. You need some level of financial, quote unquote, success. But then there's the non-material side that in reality supersedes the material side of success. And we see it every single day. We see people with a lot of financial success that are not happy, that have a lot of problems that exceed what their money can do for them, whether it's physical or mental health, spiritual health, whether it's peace, all of those things, in particular peace, they're way more valuable than financial success. So success is encompassing of both the physical and the things and the non-material things that you can't put your finger on. And that's having some level of stability, some level of peace, some level of harmony in your lifestyle amongst your family, some level of health, as we all go through health challenges regardless of how much money you have. So success for me is a balance of both of those things, both material and non-material, and harmonizing the two of them, where you may not have excess in either category, but you are at least able to enjoy a little bit of both in a way that you can live a long, healthy lifestyle.
That's awesome. That's a great definition of success. And you know, I can I can't stress enough the fact that we, as medical professionals in general, we are considered successful people by the fact that we're in our careers we attain a certain level of success. But also we deal with a lot of setbacks, right? And you can't have success without failures, by definition. Um, so, was there any point in your life where you had either a big win professionally or a big setback professionally that you learned from?
Yeah, there are many. There's several at least, and sometimes there's so many it's hard to remember at the moment. But one of the ones that will stick with me probably for the entirety of my life was more so in my ambitions to get into medical school as an undergrad, and I'd always been pretty good with my academics as a student in terms of getting good grades, be having enough discipline to still enjoy my personal time, but still get my work done. And I would say my biggest setback, my biggest one of the setbacks that sticks with me the longest, and I think hopefully for my lifetime, is after I took the MCAT for the first time and seeing the score. I joke with some of my medical assistants and my scribes who they see the end result, so they sometimes may forget or sort of not know the challenges that we face even as we get our degrees, our accolades, and our accomplishments. But I joke and I say when I opened that letter or the computer and I looked at my score, I thought I was supposed to triple my score to know what it was. That's how low it was. I was like, oh,
That's funny.
there must be a multiplier to this. And
Yeah,
it was seriously the first thought that went through my head. No jokes. So I was never a great standardized test taker, and that was reflected on that exam. And I remember I had a moment in the library. I went to Temple University in Philadelphia in the middle of the night. Everyone was gone. I went on the computer to look at my score. I sat in the library, and my heart sunk when I saw my score. And then I realized that although I had been successful in many things before that, anything that I put my mind to, this was a different animal because without getting a more competitive score, I knew that that would be it for my ambitions. Um, so
yeah,
that's one setback, not necessarily a financial one, but financial ones have come as well in my lifetime. But that's one that I think I'll remember for a lifetime, and I use that really to encourage everyone that I work with, from my staff to medical assistants that come to work for me, to scribes, to undergraduate students that have ambitions and to go into medicine and to go and get into medical school. That they're looking at an example of someone who it didn't come easy for, and
that's a great
not to
point.
let that discourage them if they do have those sort of setbacks as well, and to stay focused, stay disciplined, and
Yeah,
go for your goal.
yeah, that's awesome. It takes a lot of years of perseverance and consistency to get where you are right now. And obviously, it's not something that people are willing to do. Most people are willing to do, right? It's a lot of investment in time. It's a lot of financial investment too, to go through medical school and residency and all the studying. But obviously it's something that it's some out of comfort zone for a lot of people, right?
Mhm.
How do you deal with risks in general?
Yeah, I consider myself one that takes controlled risks. As I mentioned, by nature, from the time I was very young, I was a very structured, organized person. But at the same time, I also know that just from looking at examples of the individuals in my life that were ahead of me, but being too risk adverse takes you really nowhere. So you have to be able to take disciplined and well calculated risks, in the sense that it's still a risk. You can't necessarily guarantee the outcome. You have to know that you may take a loss. But if you do as much of the planning ahead of time, understand the best and worst case scenarios, and being able to deal with both, then it is worth the risk if you are looking to elevate yourself in any regard, especially
Yeah.
financially.
Yeah, and that's very important, especially in your profession. You're a spine surgeon. Your risks are a little bit more risky than others. That's a good point. Now, when you get to this point in your career and you are successful as you are there any habits or skills that you develop or you have to develop in order to maintain this kind of level of consistent success?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's interesting that we are using the word success, because I honestly, when I reflect on myself, maybe because I'm ambitious, I don't necessarily deem myself as successful yet. I guess it's relative. I feel like I'm on a journey, and my end goal is a level of success that exceeds where I am now. So I can't, I don't want to give myself too much credit, because I'm still a work in progress in many regards, both professionally, personally, because in every aspect of my life, there's still so much more for me to grow in.
Right.
But in terms of the level of accomplishment that I've reached now, I think the what I have to maintain, what I believe you have to maintain, is a lot of intangibles. So one is commitment. You can't be too quick to give up on your endeavor. There's discipline, and discipline means that even as life, as you become more successful, I guess that's the way to put it, do you still have the discipline to uh, study, to look to grow? Do you still have the discipline to um, really, really continue to do the things that you did when you were striving for your goal? So even as you reach your goal, do you still have the ability to continue to do that? I think we see it in professional athletes that are the most successful, especially those that go into professional sports like the NBA, NFL, uh, MLB. At a certain point, you got in and you may have a 5-year guaranteed contract. But at that stage, without discipline, you'll still make the money, but your career is going to go downhill if you don't have the same discipline and training that you did before you got in. So I look at my life the same way. And although I'm not the best academician like I was back in training, right? I don't say I could keep up with all the articles of the journals of the societies, and all of the literature, but I still have a level of discipline with studying and learning what I should be doing to better my practice. And that's just one example. And you can translate that to every area of your life, as a father, as a husband, as a family member, as a partner where I'm in practice, as a member of a corporation, as a physician as a whole. So commitment, discipline, then a lot of other things to maintain success. Integrity, you have to be honest if you really want true success, if you really want that peace of mind that supersedes the material aspect of success.
Interesting.
You have to have some level of love in your heart to really do something like we do.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be some kind of fire behind that soul to keep you going.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I agree with that. I kind of want to branch out a little bit, and I know you're um very interested in like different types of income streams, right, other than your medical profession. And this is one of the talks that recently got a lot of attention that in the medical community, right? Because we can't work till we die, right? So we have to find a way to get more other types of passive income streams from other things. And what is your strategy and how do you see those things in your life presently? And how do you deal with this concept?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's another area that I'm still learning, and as I've reached out to you plenty of times to just talk about some of my challenges with my passive income stream. And but ultimately, I do believe, especially for us physicians, surgeons, um, we are most of us are not the traditional like old school physicians who plan to work till we're 70, 80 years old, so we get
Yeah.
we can barely stand. Not only because of um, that being just so taxing on you mentally, physically, but also because of the healthcare industry that we're in. It is extremely difficult to sustain a healthy level of living and maintain a practice with integrity in this environment. And that's a topic for another day. But the amount of pressure, the amount of expectations, the amount of responsibilities that we have both as clinicians and administratively, especially for those in private practice, you're going to have some level of passive income if you want to reach
Mhm.
retirement comfortably. I'm sorry if you
Yeah,
guys hear my other baby girl is over there screaming, so sorry if you hear the background. But
it's all right.
so yeah, my strategy um for me, I had a passion as I was going through my medical training to go into the real estate um, field,
Hmm.
simply because of not simply, but one of the main reasons was because of the ability to maintain passive income. And I joke with my wife about that now because we have dove into that, but it's not as passive as we would like it to be.
Yeah, yeah.
You still have to be involved. You still have difficult decisions to make. You still have setbacks. Um, and that's even with having a team of people that are helping you manage properties and real estate. So for me, that was my fundamental um, uh, goal for passive income because that's what I understood. You know, I don't have a background like I said. My mom is first generation Nigerian. If anyone knows anything about Nigerians, power to them. But they work hard and they feel like that's the only way to make a living.
Yeah.
But they work extremely hard. So I saw that and I'm like, yeah, I can work hard. I can work hard with the best of them. I'm confident in that regard. But do I want to do that for the rest of my life?
Right.
Real estate was the one thing that I appreciated I could dive into with not as much training and background as I would have to in terms of if I were to go into any other areas of business, whether it's a stock market and all these other aspects.
So
Um,
how did you start in real estate?
yeah, my first real estate purchase was as I graduated medical school. So if I didn't mention already, I went to medical school in Philadelphia, Temple University.
Hmm.
I went to undergrad at Temple University. I'm sorry, and then from there I stayed to do for medical school. So that was going on 8 years in one city, and I was renting the whole time, other than the first 2 years where I stayed on campus.
Yeah.
And just at some point, a light bulb went off. Is once I got into residency, also at Temple University, I said, "There's absolutely no way I could have been in this city longer than I've ever lived in any one city in my entire life and not purchase something." So I told myself
Interesting.
for the last 5 years, I need to purchase. I need to purchase something that I'm going to stay in for this 5 years. And then I know that I would have at least made an investment or at least paid income to myself in terms of owning the property. And
Interesting.
that
How old were
was,
you when you did that?
I went straight through and through all my training. So college, I graduated 22, med school, I graduated right. So I did that. I purchased my first property at 25, right before I turned 26.
Wow, that's amazing.
And yeah, so that was my first property, and I held on to it. Even I decided my cheap year residency. Um, that I wanted to live in Center City, Philadelphia for 1 year before I left. My condo that I purchased was in the suburbs of Philadelphia, area called Roxborough. So my last year, I actually moved out into an apartment in Center City, but I rented out my condo for the year, and it was well. I again, passive income
House hack.
and an investment. So that was my first real estate endeavor.
Awesome.
And I just sold that property last year, so I had it for a long time.
Very nice. Very nice. So did you branch out from that little first rental property?
I did. It took some time. So I finished residency, moved back to Maryland to do fellowship in spine. I did my spine fellowship at the University of Maryland, shock trauma. And I didn't do anything for that fellowship period. That was all work, all surgeries every day. And as soon as I started practice, I would say probably within the next 18 months, I bought like 3 rental properties in a row. And then I built from there, all single families. And I recently, subsequently, probably 3 or 4 years ago, I bought my first actually, I had a couple multi-unit properties.
Yeah.
And so that was my branching out from there. And I know you and I have sort of talked to it because when we were neighbors, I know I asked you a couple questions and pointers and pieces of advice. And
Yeah.
Brittany and I talk about it all the time. You have always been more than willing to give good advice because not everyone is willing to do that.
Yeah, I know. It's my pleasure. And one of I think the first thing that someone needs to understand when branches out into real estate field, especially from us, from medical professional, is the financial education, right? So we need to educate yourself first before you do something. And that's what I'm trying to do with in general, with friends, with people that I know. Because I came like you. I'm from a country that I immigrated here, and I had no idea, no financial education. I had no concept of an economic system, open economic system. So I had to learn all these things. But yeah, as you said, it's interesting because I realize that in general, 80 to 90% of the millionaires are from real estate.
Yeah.
They're not from working as a doctor.
No.
I
Those
mean,
guys are
we
dead.
earn a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
financially, we're very well off, and we have high income, and we
Mhm.
also pay a high amount of taxes. And that's what I realized initially when I started the journey in real estate, like yourself, right? It's the only vehicle that I found beneficial to decrease my highest expense, which were
Yeah.
taxes,
Yeah.
and build this cash flow and income, passive income that I needed to build in parallel to my medical income.
Yeah.
But in your case, what do you think it's the goal for yourself? Like, what do you see you going with medical profession and real estate on the side?
Yeah. That's a good question. I'm still in a stage of my career where I consider myself young and early, and I look at my medical career and my I guess passive income real estate career in parallel, as in they both are being refined and optimized. I'm in private practice. I'm part of a smaller division that is a part of a large corporation, but of my division, I'm the managing partner. And my goal is to actually make my practice a very efficient system that involves less hands-on participation for me. And that's my ambition. So as that is growing and as my career is growing on the medical side, I'm also looking at how to refine my real estate portfolio. And that's come with some ups and downs. I've slowed down on the single family endeavors. And as I told you years ago, I was interested in getting into either commercial I was interested in getting into either commercial real estate or more multifamily real estate and or
Yeah.
syndications. And I think we talked about that as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Just as my ambition was spiking for commercial real estate, COVID hit. And then I put that on pause because commercial real estate, to my understanding, took a big hit. And
Yes.
I don't know if it's recovered because of all the remote work. So in a way, I'm glad that I didn't invest too heavily into that. I have a small ownership in commercial real estate, but such a minority ownership where I'm not going to make a big win or a big loss, whether it goes up or goes down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the benefit of it is it's mixed in with my practice. So as long as my medical practice is sustainable, there's going to be a tenant in that commercial real estate. I would like to expand that, but in a controlled way. Essentially own my buildings where I have offices, and that way I have some almost guaranteed stability. Um, and then
Yeah,
in terms of
this is
the
one of the interesting things that happened during COVID, because as you said, the office section of commercial real estate took a big hit.
yeah
But in the same time, the medical office buildings
mm-hmm,
are flourishing because
yeah
doctors are the best tenants
yeah yeah
for an office, right? They don't move. They usually stay in the same location for many, many years. They grow, they expand. So I think, it's a great investment overall. Um, so let's switch gears a little bit. And I know you're very passionate about fitness and exercising and nutrition. What does your day look like um, in terms of nutrition, fitness, approach to health?
I laugh because the nutrition part, if you knew what I ate you would have missed it. But no, I try to eat healthy, but at the same time I honestly believe in enjoying food.
Yeah.
So I joke all the time, even in my age, I still like Oreo cookies and ice cream. It's like that's my that's my thing. After a long week, I will sit down if I could get some time on the couch and eat some Oreo cookies and ice cream. And my siblings still laugh at me about that because I'm gonna be 80 years old still eating Oreo cookies and ice cream. But no, essentially what I believed and what I've done, in terms of my fitness, part of me exercising as routinely as possible is actually part of my mental health. I don't necessarily
Mhm.
do it anymore for um, the physical nature of things, and it started out that way. Um, I started exercising just, I'm pretty basic when it comes to my exercises. I started doing that at a very young age as a kid. Um, for reasons that aren't necessarily what's expected. But as I told you, I moved around a lot, so I looked at exercise as being a way for me to be able to hold my own if I were to get into physical altercations.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I transitioned from that, and high school I started playing football, so that kept me in shape. College I also played football. I was a walk on at Temple, so that gave me a level of discipline with working out routinely, but still getting my work done. And then as I transitioned throughout my career, medical school residency, even into my career now, I try to maintain some level of resistance training and cardio, more so to help decompress my mind.
Hmm.
And I enjoy music, so I always listen to music when I'm working out. And it actually is one of the few moments in the day that I take my mind completely off of work as much as I can. Because usually during the day,
You
there's
disconnect.
yeah, absolutely. I'm able to disconnect. And in terms of just like cardio for me, just going walking, I'm fortunate to live in a beautiful neighborhood. I just go walking. And for some, it
Yeah.
may be for fitness, but for me, it's really for mental decompression. Listening to music. And again, it just helps me take my mind off of the number of responsibilities um, and questions that are being thrown at me on a daily basis from patients to
Yeah.
colleagues to staff, administrators, etc.
Walking is one of those things that it's very unappreciated, I would say. Everybody talks about resistance training and,
Yeah,
cardio and high interval training and all this stuff.
yeah,
But if everybody would walk, just walk,
yeah.
we would get a lot
It's amazing.
more fit people in the
You're
world.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Tudor, when I see patients that are healthy and in great shape, in their late 60s, 70s, 80s, all they do is walk routinely. When you visit foreign countries, Europe, especially when we went to Italy, those elderly people are climbing up stairs that are like on
Yeah,
an 80-degree incline, and they're able to do that. They've been walking all of their life,
yeah,
and it is honestly underrated. Just like you said, I don't do marathons, I don't run distance, I don't do anything, but I'll walk a few miles, and hopefully that gives me some longevity. Now, if I have a stroke tomorrow, and then I'll eat all my words.
yeah.
Maybe I'm not in good shape.
um,
But no, that's my take
yeah,
on it. So it's both for the exercise, fitness, but ultimately for the mental decompression of
yeah.
our responsibilities.
Interesting. So, given the fact, of your success and accomplishments, I would say, so far, if you would have to look back on your own self at 18 years old, what would you say to yourself at this point? What advice would you give to yourself?
That's a tough question. That's a good question, because I feel like there are a lot of things I would educate myself on, or give myself advice to help me be a better person. Because I've grown. I know I've grown since then, so I've learned a lot, both on a personal level, controlling my temperament. That's one
Hmm.
thing I would give to myself at 18. I think at 18, and again going to my background, I was very quick to defend myself, especially physically. So I would give myself the advice that I didn't need to do that. I think, it was good for a season when I was younger and I needed to have that edge to survive. But as you get older, you have to learn better ways to um, find compromise or to deal with conflict. I guess that's the best way. And
Yeah.
I have learned that most importantly in marriage, right? Because unless you get that out of your system, you're going to be fighting every single day. And
Yeah.
I mean, verbally, right? I've obviously never gotten into any physical altercations with a woman or my wife. I love my wife dearly. And what the relationship has taught me was growth in being able to deal with conflict without getting so angry. And
Hmm.
so that's probably one of the most important things that I have learned and maturing with in my life, on a personal level. Um, and then this other advice that I would give myself as a 18-year-old, um, leaving high school, going into college, um, I think more, on one hand, I would say discipline with finances, but I don't want to allude to me being a reckless spender, because I never had a lot of money to spend recklessly. But I think even at that age, if I was smart enough to start considering investments, um, considering long-term financial planning at that age, I would probably be so far ahead of where I am now. Um,
Yeah, it's
so.
interesting. They did a statistic in general, and they said
Mm,
every year you lose in investing and start investing,
yeah,
it costs you probably about 5 years at the end, on
yeah.
the other side,
Hmm.
because of compound interest and the power of like circulating money.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I totally agree with you. I would do the same thing. I would say,
Yeah.
start investing as soon as you can, as
Hmm.
soon as you have like 25, $50 that you can put
Hmm.
aside, and, start investing in a mutual fund or an index fund or something that can, grow
Yeah.
over years. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's very good advice.
Absolutely. And then
Um,
another thing is it kind of related to that. is establishing a good network, not just your social friends,
Mm-hmm.
right? Social friends. I was fortunate. I had plenty of friends, um, but establishing a good network, because most people that are successful financially are not doing it by themselves.
Yeah.
And I had a mentality. I was always a very solo person, as in stand your own ground, make your own decisions, walk your own path. I was very independent,
Yeah.
even with friends. But when it came down to, because some of my friends, you don't want to follow their footsteps. So I was
Right.
very independent minded. But as an 18-year-old, as I think about it, if you start establishing a good network of people who want the same or at least future as you do, both financially and everything else that we talked about in terms of success, you
Mm-hmm.
can do you can do amazing things, and it's never too late.
Yeah.
It's never too late to do that. But if you're able to establish that at a young age and build with a group of people, the power that you have as a group is exponentially greater than what you have as an individual.
That's a great advice. You know what they say, you're the average of the five people you hang out with,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know who said that, but um, you can go very fast by yourself, but you can go
Yeah,
very far
yeah.
in a team.
With the team. Absolutely.
Yeah. Um, that's awesome. Emeka, what projects are you excited about? What's up on your future right now?
Yeah. In a little sense, the business, the practice management, and the progression, growth, um, strengthening of my private practice is a main priority of mine. Um, and then on the personal end, um, I guess what project I would say, when it comes, like, I would answer the question, I guess, when it comes to investments, I've slowly sort of um, got rid of the majority of my single family properties.
Hmm.
And I am interested in doing more multifamily properties, just from my experience and what I've seen, and hopefully syndications, as I'll talk to you
Hmm.
about in the future when the timing is right. Right, you know, so when the timing is right, I would like to embark on that. And I still have my interest to um, become more established in the commercial market.
Yeah.
And I'm just waiting for the right opportunity and the right amount of capital,
Right.
hopefully with a strong network. So those are the two
Your
things that I would
network
say.
is your net worth, right?
Yes, yeah. So we got to be closer to them. You got
Yes,
to.
that's true.
Yeah. So no, those
Um,
that's what I have in store. I hope that answers the question.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's great. I'm sure you're gonna accomplish a lot of things from now on. Emeka, it's been great to have you here. What's the best way of people get in touch with you if they have
Oh yeah,
questions or advice or
yeah, absolutely. My email. And then for those that are close to me, I'm always responsive via cell phone as well. So my email, it is okay. I don't know which email you have but I can give you one that you can share with anyone that wants to get in touch with me.
sure. Yeah, we'll put it in the notes.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Any piece of advice of someone who wants to become what you are right now?
yeah. My advice is that would be to really just learn yourself and your strengths to optimize your outcome, and also don't let potential go to waste. And I say that in the sense that every individual that walks this earth, whether they look physically fit or out of shape on the outside, regardless of what they look like physically, they have some strengths, because we all have something that we can offer, and they all have potential. That's every human being, even those that look like they're failing, that look like their life may be in shambles. Um, every human being on this earth has both of those things, some strengths and some potential. And find a way to optimize your strength. As I gave my example, my strength was very basic. I've become a much more dynamic human being with time, but at a young age, I was a very basic, elementary, not exciting person. And I learned what my strength was, and I thought about it over a period of time, years, and just continued to go in the direction of what I felt like was optimal for me. And for me, that was medicine. For someone else, it may be medicine, but it may be something completely different. And you're not confined to what you choose at any given point in time. You may choose one thing, and years later, like I did, find a way to get into another, like real estate. So learn your strengths and just don't let your potential, which we all also have, don't let it go to waste.
I love that. That's a great advice. That's a great point to finish this interview on a high note. Thank you so much. I appreciate you having here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Sure. Good luck, man.
All right. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
That's a wrap on Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Interested in joining us? Go to stellarsuccesspodcast.com/guest to apply. Stay stellar and level up.